A pirate's life was not what Hollywood makes it out to be. There was no leisure time between raids, no endless parties, no romantic strolls across moonlit decks. The reality was far grimmer indeed. Life aboard a pirate ship was brutal, cramped, and downright miserable for most of the crew. But what exactly did a pirate do from sunrise to sunset? How did they actually spend their days when they weren't attacking merchant vessels or hiding from the Navy? What was the daily rhythm of existence on these wooden floating prisons? Well, that's what we're going to explore. Welcome to a day in the life of a pirate. Waking up and preparing for the day aboard a pirate ship was nothing like the romanticized notion of pirates rolling out of feathered beds in captain's quarters. Most pirates didn't have beds. They had hammocks slung between beams. Or, if you were unlucky, you shared a hammock with another sailor on rotating shifts. Yes, you read that right. 2 men in one hammock, sleeping in alternating 8-hour blocks, because there wasn't enough space for everyone to sleep at once. Imagine the hygiene nightmare. The smell alone would make modern sailors weep. Moisture, sweat, bodily functions, all mingling in close quarters where fresh air was a luxury. But pirates didn't have luxury. They had survival. You woke to the sound of the boatswain's call, a high-pitched whistle that pierced through the darkness like a demonic alarm clock. Some ships used drums or simply shouted crew members stomping on the deck above you. Either way, you got up whether you liked it or not. There was no snoozing, no rolling over for 5 more minutes. Sleep was a privilege, and privileges got you killed in pirate hierarchies. Once awake, you had maybe minutes to relieve yourself. Splash some water on your face if you were lucky enough to access the wash buckets and get topside for the day's assignment. Your captain and quartermaster had already decided what needed doing, and falling behind meant the cat o' nine tails across your back. That's the whip. Very motivating, very painful. Work assignments varied wildly depending on the ship's needs and your skills. A pirate crew wasn't random. It operated with strange military precision. The captain commanded the ship's direction and strategy. The quartermaster handled discipline and treasure division. The master gunner oversaw cannons. The sailing master navigated. Ordinary crew members, the bulk of perhaps 100 men, did everything else. One man might spend the entire day repairing rigging high above deck, clinging to rope with salt spray stinging his eyes. Another would swab the decks, scrubbing away blood from previous battles or salt accumulation that made the wood slippery and dangerous. Still another would work below in the hold, shifting cargo, checking supplies, and hunting for rats and other vermin that multiplied faster than the crew could ever kill them. Carpentry work was constant. Wooden ships leaked, rotted, and splintered. Worms ate through hulls. Storm, Astore sails, and cracked masts. A good carpenter was worth his weight in stolen gold. Some men worked the bilge, pumping water from the lowest decks to keep the ship from sinking. It was backbreaking work done in darkness, sometimes in water up to your waist, watching rats swim past your legs. Nothing built character quite like contemplating your mortality while pumping water in a pitch-black hold. By noon, most crew members had been working for 6 hours straight without meaningful rest or food. Exhaustion set in quickly, especially for those unaccustomed to maritime labor. Many pirates were pressed into service, captured, coerced, or simply desperate men from ports. They had to learn or die. There were no training programs, no mercy. Just the ocean, the work, and the constant threat of violence. Food aboard a pirate ship was deliberately terrible, not through mismanagement, but by design. Fresh food spoiled quickly at sea, so provisions consisted mostly of hardtack, which was essentially unleavened bread, baked so hard it could break your teeth. Some sailors soaked it in seawater or rum just to bite through it. It was edible for years because literally nothing wanted to eat it. Well, that's not entirely true. Weevils infested hardtack. Small white worms burrowed through it, creating tiny tunnels that made each bite a small lottery. You might get bread, you might get weevil. Most sailors ate the weevils without complaint because protein was protein, and scurvy killed more pirates than combat ever did. Salt pork and salt fish made up the meat ration. The salt preserved it, but also made it impossibly salty, requiring gallons of water to wash down. Fresh water was rationed strictly because ships couldn't carry enough and wells were rare at sea. A pirate might receive 1 gallon per day for drinking and washing combined. In hot climates, that was barely enough to survive. Rum was plentiful, though. Alcohol didn't spoil, and captains learned that drunk sailors were less likely to mutiny. Most pirates consumed more rum than water, which meant most pirates were at least partially inebriated most of the time. This explained some of their decision-making. Fighting was easier drunk. Dying was easier drunk. Suffering was easier drunk. Along with hard rations came dried peas, hard biscuits made of flour and salt, and occasionally cheese so aged and hard it could be used as a weapon. A meal took 10 minutes. No conversation, no ceremony. Just shoving food in your mouth as quickly as possible and returning to work. Meals were taken in rotating shifts because there wasn't space for everyone to eat simultaneously. Entertainment. Now this is where things got interesting, though interesting might be generous. Entertainment was scarce, but vital for maintaining sanity. After work ended around sunset, pirates had limited options for passing the long evening hours. Some gambled, using cards or dice, wagering portions of their share in plunder. Card games could turn violent quickly, especially when rum was involved and accusations of cheating flew. More than one pirate lost a finger for allegedly marking cards. You didn't cheat unless you wanted to risk amputation. Some sailors told stories, swapping tales of previous voyages, famous captains they'd served under, or purely fictional adventures designed to entertain. Singing was common. Sea shanties served practical purposes, keeping rhythm during group labor, but they also provided entertainment and helped sailors remember their names and histories. Many pirate songs were crude, vicious things that wouldn't survive transcription in a family publication. Some men whittled wood or worked on other handicrafts, creating small carvings or mending clothes that were constantly falling apart. Reading was impossible for most pirates because literacy was rare and the ship had no books. Some educated sailors taught others to read or calculate, though such lessons were sporadic and usually involved gambling debits that could never be repaid. Music came from whatever instruments the crew possessed or had pillaged from merchant vessels. A violin, a flute, a drum, maybe a concertina if they got lucky. The music was usually terrible by modern standards, but riveting to men starving for any sensory input beyond the monotony of labor and suffering. Large crews sometimes performed plays or skits, mocking authority figures or reenacting famous historical events with crude humor. The shows lasted hours, providing escape from their grim reality. Navigation was the mystery that fascinated no one, but terrified everyone. Pirates didn't typically possess formal navigation training like Navy officers did. Most sailing masters learned through experience, accumulated knowledge passed down through generations of sailors. They used compasses, which worked reasonably well on good days, and charts, which were often wrong or outdated. The stars provided navigation at night, though reading stars accurately required years of practice. Latitude could be calculated using the sun's angle at noon. Longitude was a nightmare. There was no reliable method for calculating it, which meant ships often had no idea if they were 5 miles or 50 miles from their intended course. You could be completely lost without realizing it until spotting land on the opposite side of an island. This is partly why shipwrecks were so common. A pirate ship hunting prey in familiar waters had advantages. The Caribbean, with its island chains and known merchant routes, allowed experienced captains to predict where to find targets. But open ocean navigation was educated guessing, wrapped in the appearance of science. Storms made everything worse by obscuring sun and stars and pushing ships off course. Pirates relied heavily on local pilots, men who knew specific waterways and paid for that knowledge in terrible ways if they led ships into trouble. Most navigation happened without clear destination, following rumors and tips about merchant convoys or treasure. A sail spotted on the horizon meant one thing: investigate. The crew would work frantically to catch the vessel, using oars if wind failed, burning every ounce of strength to get close. Navigation wasn't about precision. It was about luck and experience and knowing which waters harbored the richest prizes. Violence wasn't a daily occurrence for most pirates, despite what media suggests, but the threat permeated everything. A captain's authority rested on his willingness to punish instantly and severely. Disobedience meant flogging. Theft meant losing a hand. Serious crimes meant death. The threat kept men in line better than any persuasion. Desertions happened regularly, especially when ships made port. Men fled into jungles or cities, accepting the risk of capture and hanging over the certainty of slow death at sea. When captains caught deserters, punishment was public and horrific, meant to terrify others into loyalty. Combat was mercifully rare. Most merchant vessels surrendered immediately when they spotted a well-armed pirate ship. The crew knew fighting was futile, so they just handed over cargo and went on with their lives. This is an important fact that Hollywood gets completely wrong. Pirates prefer to not fight because fighting meant casualties and damage to their ship. A dead sailor couldn't work. Damaged rigging meant slower chasing speed. So negotiation, intimidation, and threats did the actual work. Real combat happened when merchant vessels resisted or when navies appeared. Then, the carefully balanced world of a pirate ship descended into absolute chaos. Cannons roared. Splinters became shrapnel. Men fell from rigging. The smell of gunpowder and blood mixed with seawater. Those moments determined everything: fortune, freedom, or death. But between those rare explosions of violence came the relentless daily grind of suffering. Social structure aboard pirate ships was fascinating because it was simultaneously rigid and democratic. Every crew member had a voice in captain selection and major decisions. But once a captain was chosen, his authority was absolute. A quartermaster handled practical matters, enforcing rules, dividing plunder, settling disputes. Skilled specialists like carpenters, gunners, and navigators received larger shares because their skills meant survival. Ordinary sailors received equal shares of anything plundered, except common items like food and water that everyone received by default. This system created strange solidarity mixed with resentment. You lived together in miserable conditions, shared the same terrible food, faced the same violence and death. But some men would leave richer than others because they had useful skills. The hierarchy meant status. Officers slept better, ate better, received respect. Ordinary crew lived like cargo. Some pirate ships attempted to mitigate this through written articles, agreements all crew signed describing rights, compensation, and punishment. These articles were rarely enforced fairly. Captains interpreted them however they wished. Ultimately, a pirate ship was a dictatorship wrapped in the appearance of democracy, held together by fear, necessity, and the hope that the next merchant vessel would carry enough treasure to make the suffering worthwhile. And there you have it, a glimpse into what a pirate's day actually involved. Not glory, not freedom, just work, hunger, fear, and the ocean. If this video helped you understand the reality behind the romance, please leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more historical deep dives into the lives people actually lived. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.